Live in 3, 2, 1. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Left My Heart at the Masjid. My name is Kashif Osman and I'm delighted to host this wonderful live stream every night on the Islamic Association of Raleigh's YouTube channel. Every Monday, we have Mental Health Mondays. And for the past 4 weeks, we've had a variety of special guests in the areas of mental health, discussing topics related to anxiety, depression, self-care, substance abuse, and various coping mechanisms during the coronavirus outbreak. We've also had a variety of these experts discuss ways that you can be referred to a mental health counselor or a mental health professional should you want to explore long-term care and long-term coverage, that you could contact the IAR mental health team and they would put together a plan of care or refer you out to someone that can assist should you need this. In addition, we also had a special guest, Sister Asma, from a domestic violence shelter that she started, discussing the importance of domestic abuse and how there's so few Muslim domestic violence shelters in the United States. SubhanAllah, it's been a wonderful series that we've had every Monday here, and you're more than welcome to check out the entirety of the series linked down here, inshallah. Today is our final episode of Mental Health Mondays, and it's apt that we're going to wrap up with almost all of our special panelists and special guests, and hear just a small reminder of what they thought were the most essential takeaways from this. So if you missed all other episodes, you've tuned into the right one. Inshallah, we'll hear from Sister Azlina Azhar, Sister Amal Esadir, Sister Shada Maroof, Brother Abdul Malik Lion, as well as Imam Salahuddin. They'll all be recapping in a few minutes of what they discussed during the past few weeks. And after that, we'll also go into a couple questions that the audience might have, as well as some tips to prepare ourselves for Ramadan, inshallah. So without further ado, I'm going to start with Sister Shada Maroof. I'm going to try and go in order of when we had these guests on. So I think Sister Shada or Dr. Shada Maroof, a licensed psychiatrist in Raleigh, North Carolina, will go first, inshallah, and then just give us a brief reminder of what we discussed during her time on the show. Sister Shada, Dr. Shada Maroof.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. I'm glad to be back. It looks like I'm coming back again and again on this program, but it is an honor and pleasure. I think we started talking about the effect of the social distancing, how to handle it and all that, and we have gone through 2 or 3 weeks of that, and we are trying to handle it as much as we can. And now we are coming towards the beginning of Ramadan, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about the impact of Ramadan on our life and how we can improve ourselves and what is the impact on, what is the benefit on the emotional issues we all go through off and on in our lives. I was thinking I would talk about the biological, psychological, and social aspect of the impact of fasting and Ramadan. The biological aspect is about fasting is how beneficial it is from the metabolic point of view, besides all the added benefits which is already Allah has informed us, and many things which we don't know about, but few things which we understand at this point is the metabolic aspects, the effect on the blood sugar, cholesterol, and all that. Because during this time of restricting and limiting our food, and that has proven to be so beneficial. People are talking nowadays about fasting twice a week or intermittent fasting and how good it is for your metabolism and your physical health. Along with that physical health also goes the mental health. And the psychological aspect, the biological is you have to, the impact on the blood sugar and cholesterol and other medical issues, all aspects. We don't know much about it. Probably there are many medical doctors who might be able to explain about it. But even the psychological impact, the impact on mood and anxiety disorders during this time, it is so important that we are limiting, like I'm talking about anxiety disorders like OCD and all that. When people have obsessive thoughts. This is the time we learn how to do zikr, so to distract yourself. The best form, one of the forms of cognitive behavior therapy is distracting and refocusing. And what is the best way of doing it than doing zikr during this time? And the same thing is to develop a good relationship with Allah Ta'ala, to address your fears and worries. And I was thinking about eating disorder like bulimia, binge eating disorder, anorexia. This is also a beautiful time for the binge eating disorders, like you eat at a certain time and you have to stop no matter what. When the people have difficulty stopping and they keep on going on and on. So this is one of the nice ways that Allah has said that this is the time to stop, and we stop on that. People with anorexia who are restricting food, it is recommended that you eat in the morning time at suhoor, and you break the fast. So that also helps in the addressing that issue too. And again, we talked about anger and domestic violence. This is also a time to control our anger and work on our coping skills. Because if you're fasting, if you have to really control on our human instincts, the basic instincts you have. So this is also a good time to do that, and work on the addiction, because you're fasting, so you cannot go towards any substances or addictive drugs or medications and all that. So you're fasting for a period of time. That is a one way of stopping the addiction, and controlling your urges. And regarding the social aspect, your service to the humanity, your service to the society is very important. This is the time we have to focus on giving and sharing with others. It is not all about us buying things and enjoying our lives, but giving zakat and taking care of the poor and needy. So Ramadan, inshallah, will help us in all aspects of our life, impacting both the physical and mental health. So I wish you all a happy Ramadan. Inshallah, we will. It will be a very peaceful, a very different Ramadan, inshallah, but we will enjoy this too. And if there is any questions towards the end, I'm willing to answer that.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Maroof. You just took it away, and I think you should be the new host of the show, answering my first and my second question. Jazakallah khair. You raised a beautiful point, though, about the physiological aspects of Ramadan and how fasting has said to be beneficial. A lot of people are recommending the 8-16 diet, where you might eat for 8 hours a day and fast for 16. You know, that kind of sounds just like fasting during Ramadan during the summer. And in fact, we have a dietitian joining us this Thursday or this Wednesday, and she'll be discussing the importance of staying hydrated and the nutritional aspect of Ramadan, especially at this time right now when we're all at home and it's so easy to snack on food. Our pantry's available, our fridge is open and usually very stocked with food. Mine's very stocked with food. We went binge shopping. So now that we have all its availability to us and fewer distractions, she'll be discussing how we can maybe feel more full and distract ourselves from wanting to eat and binge eat all day. And you know, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people want to binge eat is because we're anxious. And someone that I think would be great to discuss anxiety would be Sister Azlina Azhar, core member of our IR mental health team. So Sister Azlina, would you mind telling us a bit more about the difference between anxiety and depression and worry and stress, all these terms that I don't really understand?
Assalamu alaikum, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jazakallah khair, Brother Kashif. So if you have missed the previous episode of Mental Health Monday, we did talk about the difference between stress, worry, and anxiety. And just to recap briefly what it is. So worry is really in your head. It's a cognitive component, and that's where we're worrying or thinking a lot about something that is bothering us or what to do about something. And it's actually a way of coping with something that is uncertain. So like an uncertainty of what's the outcome going to be, or somebody else actions that are out of your control, for example. So worry helps you to cope with that because you try to figure out a solution for it. Whereas stress is something that resides within your body. So it's physiological, and it can manifest in, say, your palms are sweaty, or your heart is beating fast. For example, when you have to speak in front of a group of people that you don't know, for example, then you may find yourself, that feeling symptoms of stress, and which leads to the last one. Anxiety is a culmination of both, is when your mind is racing, what am I going to do? I'm going to be meeting these people. I don't know them. What if they judge me? And not only that, but also your body is exhibiting all these symptoms as well. And so that combination is what we call anxiety. So yeah, and some of the, some of the ways that we cope with that is, both to treat both your mind and calming your mind and trying to understand, that what is within your control and what's outside of your control, and then also treating your physiological responses. So your breathing, so like doing breathing exercises can be very helpful with anxiety, and also, watching your caffeine intake, because that can trigger your different kind of responses in your body. And yeah, so things like that. Then that's a summary of basically what our Mental Health Monday, the second episode was.
SubhanAllah, Jazakallah khair for that wonderful reminder of managing stress and anxiety and worry. We also discussed a New York Times article, I believe, and that's the image we've taken for the cover of this. So if everyone sees, the cover and the thumbnail for this video is from the New York Times article. We've kept that going for all our mental health videos, subhanAllah. And I'll link that video below, or the article below that we discussed in that video with Sister Azlina and Sister Arshia. Now, Sister Azlina also mentioned the sort of regulating our caffeine intake. Now during Ramadan, we're not going to be able to rely on caffeine as much, and we have to manage how we deal with certain things. And this importance of self-care is very critical during this time when we might not have access to as many things, of talking to our friends, going outside of the house, access to food and to caffeine. As per you say, coffee is a wonderful relaxer as much as a stimulant. So I'd like to welcome Sister Amal to talk more about self-care and what we discussed. And then inshallah, we will also discuss later what you can do during Ramadan on self-care, inshallah.
Sounds good. So assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. And one of the topics that we discussed on Mental Health Mondays was self-care. And self-care, if you recall, for those who were able to attend that session or watch it afterwards, self-care comes in different aspects of things. It's not just physical self-care, it's not just nutritional or working out and exercising. Sister Azlina mentioned, you have to also clear your mind in order for your body to be functioning well. So there is the psychological, there is the mental, there is the spiritual, there is personal, there is professional, there is the, and I know I'm missing out on something, but there are 6 of them. And so all these different components, all these different is part of your well-being. And part of your well-being is to have that balanced way of caring for yourself. And one aspect of, being mentally healthy is to do meditation. And meditation is about the relationship between you and yourself. And so that's one way of clearing your space, your internal space. You being able to be mentally able to just be clear and focused on what needs to happen, so you can be able to move forward with any action that you need to be working on. And also part of it is to, reflection reflection, especially, during these times, sometimes sitting down, reflecting, and you have all these emotions that are going inside of you that you're not so clear as to what's going on. Sometimes having to write them down in a journal or speaking to a coach or to a therapist. Those are some ways where you could just let those emotions out and be able to clear your system from all this, extra, pressure that you have inside of you. Different ways also have been discussed in terms of, eating healthy or, working out, keeping up with your working out activities and exercises, and also your relationships. Everything around you is about relationships, relationship with yourself and relationship with Allah. That's part of you being spiritually taking care of that aspects of things, and relationship with people around you, with your family, friends, and just relationship with your body. So all these different relationships can help you be able to take care of yourself once you are able to establish that focus, and it starts with that internal clarity, that internal clearing for yourself. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what self-care is all about.
SubhanAllah, Jazakallah khair for that wonderful reminder, Sister Amal, especially breathing and taking care of yourself in all these myriad of ways, SubhanAllah. And so I'll come back to that. I think self-care during Ramadan is very important. And I'd like to get your perspective, inshallah, on some of the ways we can take care of ourselves during this tough time with coronavirus and Ramadan, inshallah.
Sure.
Let's hear from our last panelist, last but not least, Brother Abdul Malik, who joined us to talk about substance abuse and coping, kind of going in tandem with self-care, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Thank you for having me again. And thank you for all those who are watching and participating. Yeah, so just to recap, and, everything was more or less laid out on, how to identify those coping mechanisms. What I would suggest to you, and this is what I said on Monday, was to find out what works for you. I did lay out a few ideas, such as, maybe going back to when your recovery started. That can often be a good source of solace. Doesn't require any materials, it just requires time. Also, maybe stepping outside of yourself and, doing things for others, as well as for yourself. Selfishness can be a bad term, but in recovery can be a good term. And learning what works for you, what makes you happy, and indulging in those things a little bit, if possible, can really encourage those good feelings and encourage that state of homeostasis, which is what the other professionals were speaking to. Having that sense of homeostasis in biologically and psychologically. Dr. Shahida pointed to diet and how that affects mental health. And so that's very important. These are things you can change in your home with very little effort, as well as exercise. I'm a huge proponent of exercise. Of course, we're not allowed to go to the gyms and so forth, but we are allowed to go for walks. We are allowed to go to the lake. We are allowed to step outside of the home. So these things it's not a complete lockdown. So let's take advantage of that. Let's take advantage with time with our family and make it a fruitful time, a time of, peace and fun. As you can see, I just had a birthday. So, we did it at home, and we actually had a live event on YouTube, and family members were able to join. So that was really interesting and fun. But specifically to recovery, we do have to think about ourselves sometimes, identify what works for us, identify what's triggering us, and then see how to cope with that. Now, the coping mechanisms are different for everyone. And that's why I always point to what works for the individual, and leaning into what brings them joy. Mm-hmm. And focusing on that. So that's pretty much what we talked about. And then we did talk about resources. And just to recap what you had pointed out in the start, please reach out if you're having any urges. please network. If you have a sponsor, call them. That's what they're there for. Anybody that's willing to listen to you for more than a few minutes, please reach out to that person. As well as when this is over, there are systems in place, and we are there to help navigate that for you. So if you need to reach out to any professional in any field, the IR health team is there for you. And so please do so. And may Allah bless everyone and keep everyone safe. And Ramadan is coming. So may Allah give everyone strength and energy through Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala. And again, I thank you for your time, brother. And it's been a blessing just to participate. So thank you again.
Jazakallah khair for joining us. We're honored to have you on the show, and happy birthday to you as well.
Was my
April
daughter,
birthdays.
actually.
Oh, happy birthday to her. Her and I can have a celebration after this. Our April babies have to stick together. So you raised some wonderful points though about the idea of having a YouTube streamed event. And inshallah, we're going to continue our Zoom iftar series with Sheikh Misbah. So every night we're going to have one member of the Imam's office team will be going live on a Zoom call. And if you're alone, you don't have family in the area, you have the option to order food from Al Maida, kind of feel like you have that taste of IAR. We'll be opening that up, and join us for a live iftar with just some familiar faces, and we can talk about your day and hear what happened and just all be together. I think that's one of the biggest aspects of this, is that keeping connected to each other. And that's one of the big themes we have in the Imam's office and in IAR as a whole, is keeping you connected to Allah, keeping you connected to the Masjid, to the community, and to the world at large. So for anything, please feel free to reach out to us. If you go to raleighmasjid.org/health, you'll find all the resources from the mental health team. You'll also be able to find the email address for the mental health team to send them an email if you need assistance, if you have a domestic violence case, or you'd like some suggestions of how best to deal with things. During this time, I understand a lot of people want ruqya services as well. You might be feeling a little sick or down and depressed, and we'll be offering that virtually as a service, kind of in tandem with the mental health team, inshallah. So I've discussed now what IAR is offering, but I'd love to hear from our mental health professionals again of what are a few tips that you have to get us through this Ramadan. And let's go back through just in the order I see everyone on screen. So Sister Shaida or Dr. Maroof, would you mind starting us off with some suggestions you have for Ramadan in a whole, but from a mental health perspective as well?
Yeah, I was thinking about when Brother Malik was talking about substance abuse, caffeine intake is also a very major issue. So make sure that you start reducing your caffeine intake so you don't have a withdrawal of headache of caffeine withdrawal by all of a sudden stop drinking the coffee during the Ramadan. So make sure you reduce your intake of caffeine in the next 4 or 5 days. And again, a reminder, this is the best time for us to have a relationship with our Creator. We have to have a good relationship with His creation. So being grateful for all the good things, for all what we have in this world, and being nice to people around us who are needy, and family and friends, and calling and inquiring about each other. And we cannot visit during this month of Ramadan, but we can always communicate and share our love and concern with each other. And people who are on medications, make sure that you take your medications at sahur and talk to your doctor about how you can spread out your medications. Make sure you keep up with your fluid intake, the water intake during the sahur time and the iftar time, more than the food. Our body can withstand this withholding meals or food for several days, but water is very important. So make sure you drink enough water and keep fluids, and even a lot of fruits and vegetables. They also have a lot of water content, so that will be helpful. And regarding the sleep, make sure you sleep at the proper time. During the Ramadan time, we sleep less. but some of the emotional issues are also helped by sleep deprivation, some kind of depression where there is excessive lack of energy, lack of motivation, and people sleep a lot. One of the treatment is sleep deprivation. So it might be beneficial for those people. And then using good coping skills and working on all our weaknesses. We all have to do that. It's not that some have it and we don't. We all have our weaknesses and our strengths, and this is the time to focus on our weakness and work on it so we can come out as a better person. And when you're doing something continuously for 30 days, it becomes a habit. And let's make this on a routine. So once by the end of Ramadan, we are into good habits in our daily life. So wish you all good Ramadan and stay safe.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Maroof, for that wonderful and very insightful summary of what we can do during Ramadan, especially staying hydrated and through ways beyond just drinking water. You know, watermelon is a wonderful way to stay hydrated during Ramadan and tastes pretty good as well. Now I'd like to welcome Brother Abdul Malik. If you have any suggestions, recommendations for Ramadan, just a couple quick seconds, any thoughts?
Yes, thank you again. So to recap, find out your triggers if you don't already know them. Definitely focus on your diet and physical activity. If you're in recovery, super important. Call your sponsor or anybody that's willing to talk to you. And lastly, when you get out of this, when this is over, reach out now. But at the same time, when we're able to move around a little more freely, reach out, seek help. We're here for you. This is what we do. So please give us a call. Reach out.
Alhamdulillah, that's a wonderful reminder to always reach out. Reach out to anyone that's helping you through this, or anyone that you can help through this as well. If you might want to have a few moments of your time, just call a friend that you know might be going through a tough time or is all alone, doesn't have a lot of family in the area, and just lend them a friendly ear and talk to them. Maybe FaceTime them and see each other's smiling faces, inshallah. Now I'd like to welcome Sister Amal to kind of give us some self-care advice, inshallah.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Ramadan, it's really time for you to go more into your spiritual self-care. And part of spiritual self-care is for you to get deeper on who you be as a person and your relationship with yourself, so you could strengthen that relationship with Allah. Brother Abdul Malik was mentioning that, you know, part of it is to know your triggers. And that's also part of deepening the awareness of who you be as a person, is to know what really sets you off, what makes you happy, and what, you know, brings you pleasure and what does not, and be able to cope with that, you know, in terms of, you know, just as I said, you know, breathing is part of the meditation, and just controlling your breath. That helps you in, you know, controlling your physiological being. You can get into coherence between your mind and heart and be able to stabilize yourself. And from there, you're able to be in more control of who, you know, of what's going on within you. And, you know, again, the spiritual aspects of things is important, but it's not the one and only. So you don't want to also just do nothing other than just pray 24/7 and forget about everything around you, because the rest of your body has haqq. It has the right, you know, for you to take care of it. And people around you also have their own rights as well. So you need to be able to deliver on that. So in addition to your spirituality, also just be sure that you're eating healthy, you're not overeating, you're not binge eating, and you're keeping up with some sort of activity, and you're connecting with people around you and just helping out and supporting and lending an ear or, you know, a hand there, whatever may be needed. So these are some things that you could do for yourself during this Ramadan, inshallah, that can keep you balanced from a self-care perspective.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Amal. It's a wonderful reminder that the spiritual aspect is definitely critical, and it's first and foremost during the special month, but it's not everything that there is. And, you know, to take us through an activity, I'm going to put Sister Azlina on the spot, because I've heard that she does this wonderful breathing activity. So after telling us what we can do as far as terms of Ramadan advice, would you mind leading us on a breathing activity, Sister Azlina?
Yeah, so Ramadan is a spiritual time, like Sister Amal mentioned, and we are supposed to connect closer with our Lord. But it can also be a time of stress for people. You know, we have our own expectations of what Ramadan should be like, right? And that, you know, in the age of social media, you see all these photos of, you know, so and so is cooking this, and they've decorated their house and such. They've done, you know, so many du'as and dhikrs and different salats, you know, and so we have to remind ourselves as well what our expectations for ourselves is, and also, you know, to be kind to ourselves. And one of the ways to be kind to ourselves is to regulate our breathing, right? And so that's one thing that we don't notice a lot, and we take it for granted. And you know, Allah has created a very complex mechanism, which is our body, and a very important element of that is our lungs and our breathing, and how it affects our whole body, in fact, and as well as emotionally. It affects not just, you know, our body physically, but emotionally, our mental state as well. And so I like to start with, you know, closing my eyes, and if you want to, you know, join along, you're welcome to do that too. Just
I'm going to require everyone to follow along, actually.
and close your eyes and try to, you know, remove your worries for a brief moment. You know, forget what's going on in the world right now and just concentrate on yourself. You know, sit up so that you can, you know, fill your lungs with air, and breathe in slowly to the count of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold it for 2 seconds. 1, 2, and then breathe out slowly through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you practice doing that over again, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it. 1, 2, blow it out. 2, 3, 4, 5. You can feel yourself slowly relaxing. And, you know, it's very helpful when you're going through anxiety, and you like going through a phase when you're very worried. And, you know, rightly so, we are going through a very difficult time. And part of that is, you know, being able to recognize that, and not be afraid to name it. And even, you know, tell your family how you feel. You know, I'm feeling very worried about my job. I'm worried about those people who are sick. I'm worried about when I'll be able to go back to school. Name that, and also be kind to yourself. Like I said, you know, we are only able to do a certain amount of things, and you know, we tend to expect ourselves to be perfect, or we try to, you know, achieve a lot of things, and which is fine. It's great to, you know, have set high goals for ourselves, but also realize that what we're going through right now on top can pile one on top of each other. And really, if you are taking care of other people as well, you first have to take care of yourself. So yeah, and recognize that, you know, ultimately, you know, Ramadan is your connection with Allah, which is primarily the most important connection. And after that, you know, the iftar, the quality of the iftar is secondary, the quality. And so, yeah, if you can't make the biryani on time, don't stress out too much about that.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair for that wonderful activity, Sister Azim. I can already feel the stress dripping off of me, alhamdulillah. It's also a wonderful point that both you and Sister Amal raised about, we'll go on social media and see that someone maybe decorated their house in a very elaborate manner, or they have this giant iftar spread. And this is a reminder for all of us that there might be people out there that follow us on social media or in our group chats that don't have the ability to cook these giant meals. They might be a convert living with their families still, and they might not have this giant iftar spread. They might only be able to eat a small portion of that because it might be contaminated. So being a little wary of what we post just to take care of those around us is very important. But then on the flip side, if you have the means and you have kids, it's always wonderful to maybe create a small craft activity, cut out some stickers or cut out a little banner that says Ramadan Mubarak. Make the house feel special. Turn your own home into a masjid during this time and celebrate the fact that we're all home alone for 30 days with our families. So make it a special and different place to be than it would be the other 330 days of the year. SubhanAllah, Jazakallah khair to all of our guests. Alhamdulillah, this was a wonderful episode. And if you'd like to reach out to our mental health professionals, inshallah, you can do that via the IAR health websites. That's raleighmasjid.org/health. And we'll also have a website, an email address listed there that if you want to get any more information from any of our experts. And we might be bringing back our experts, Sister Azlina, Sister Amal, Dr. Maruf, and Brother Abdul Malik, as well as our other guests to our Instagram page. Throughout the month of Ramadan, they might be sharing a quick reminder, or we might have Sister Azlina take us on another breathing activity midway through the month. So make sure you're following us on social media. We're basically Raleigh Masjid everywhere, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, even MySpace. We have one now. So make sure you're connected to us and understand we're here as a resource. The masjid is available to you, and not just spiritually, but for the community and for the world out there. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. Jazakallah khair. Actually, Sister Asma Idris in the chat says Jazakallah to Sister Azlina for that wonderful activity. It was very relaxing. So Jazakallah khair to all our professionals. Anyone have any final thoughts or suggestions, or everyone's good to go?
I think Brother Malik is saying something.
Brother Malik is saying something.
Oh, you can't hear me. I'm so sorry. So I was speaking to 2 points that was habit forming and harm reduction. One, like reducing caffeine, and that can be applied to anything. So anybody in recovery will know, maybe it's not a cold turkey thing where you have to do harm reduction, incrementalism, and it works. And then what I was saying was, I think it's very intriguing, interesting, and inspiring how Islam is laid out so perfectly for us. Ramadan is 30 days. 30 days just happens to be a very nice sweet point for habit forming. Whereas if you're doing the same thing over and over again, it will more or less become a habit. And it's great for muscle memory and many other things. So, and of course, mentally. So it's just a great exercise in that, and that how Islam aligns with our fitra and aligns with our natural psychology, and to get us back to where we are one with Allah again, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair for that reminder. Actually, that takes me into a point I almost forgot about. Within the Imam's office at IAR, we have 4 members, Sheikh Badawi, Imam Muammar, Imam AbuTaleb, and myself. And we've challenged each other to some Ramadan personal development goals, to some Quran goals. And inshallah, Imam AbuTaleb and I will be releasing a video tomorrow on our Facebook and Instagram pages where we'll be discussing the goals that we have for ourselves and how we're keeping ourselves and each other accountable. And it's kind of in that same vein as Brother Abdul Malik said, of things that we can do during Ramadan that become habits for after Ramadan as well, inshallah. Things that are manageable during the rest of the year. We're not asking someone to continue reading necessarily the whole Quran in a day or the whole juz a day after Ramadan, but something you can continually keep going for the rest of the year. And we'll be releasing that video tomorrow around 5 p.m. on our Facebook and Instagram pages, inshallah. Now I'd like to turn it over to Sister Amal, if you don't mind. Could you close us off with a small dua, inshallah?
Yes, small dua, inshallah. May Allah, inshallah, bless us all during this month of Ramadan that is coming up for us. And may we all be in good health, in good company, and be safe and away from all evil. And may Allah bring us all the blessings, inshallah.
I mean, Jazakallah khair, Sister Amal. Jazakallah khair to all our guests and to our audience. Mental Health Mondays have been one of the best additions to the series, and I'm so glad we've had the support of the mental health team as well as our wonderful viewers. Inshallah, we'll be having these continual reminders throughout the month of Ramadan as well. And then tomorrow we have Imam Muammar joining us to discuss the fiqh of Taraweeh during Ramadan and how exactly Ramadan will look in terms of IAR and some area Masjid, inshallah. And that'll be live at 8:30 tomorrow, inshallah. Jazakallah khair to all. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and have a wonderful night, inshallah.